What if I told you one guy listed 90 homes in just 72 days, has sold over 2,800 homes across the state of Maine, and still only works 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, no evenings, no weekends, because he prioritizes family first? Today's guest is that guy. Jeff Mateja isn't just a top producing agent, he's the master of market domination and the visionary behind the Mateja Group. From his innovative radio marketing listing lead funnel to building a lead generation machine that brings in listings on autopilot, Jeff has reshaped how top agents think about scaling their business without sacrificing personal time. If you want to be a listing beast and transform your business, this is what you've been waiting for. Let's dive in. First of all, welcome, Jeff, to the Listing Beast podcast.
Hey, Brendan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited. And so, Jeff, as you already know, on our show, what we try to do is we really try to focus on helping agents become top elite listing agents. And on the show, we break that into really 3 categories. Number 1, we really go through and try to understand what is it that you do that provides exceptional seller experiences so that you get paid what you're worth, right? That's the biggest thing. Me and you were just chatting offline talking about it's not how many you sell, it's what you make for every hour you work. And of course, our favorite word, profit. And then number 2, we always talk about what are you doing special in your database to increase conversion? Everyone kind of has their different machine that works behind the scenes. And then number 3, listing lead funnels. Right? What are you doing to produce listing appointments, or what have you done over time, and what's worked and what hasn't? And I'm extremely excited for our audience to talk about you took 90 listings in 72 days. And so if there's anyone listening out there of someone that knows how to do this, we're gonna talk about how that's possible, what you learned, what you took away from that experience. So that's where we're definitely gonna start and spend some time. So Jeff, let's just talk about basically over the years, refining your listing presentation and experience. I always ask people the secret sauce on this. Everyone does their whole thing a little bit different. Pre-listing package, show up the house. Some people tour the house first. Some people sit down with the client. Like, if you were gonna take me through in 3 to 4 minutes on your listing process, what does that look like? Like, and has it changed over time? Like, what does that whole thing look like in full speed?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been modified over time. Definitely stumbled along the way and have tweaked based on winning a listing or not winning a listing. So one and done. I like to go on one-step appointments and sign the paperwork. So I'm ready to go. I arrive with a CMA. I do tour the house because I've had some instances where I toured only part of the house and person said, well, you didn't see this room and I'm so proud of it. So I want them to showcase it. I just have a knack for, being interested, but speeding up the process too. So we're not getting overwhelmed or influenced by, oh, look at this room and, what I've done here, and then changing my price based on that. I already go in having a pretty good idea. I'm also asking them, well, based on what you've done and do you follow the market? What do you think your home's worth? And so just kind of get that feel out while also checking in with the big, the Zillows, the Redfins, et cetera, just to see what they
So Jeff, so we're on the phone and I'm going, yeah, Jeff, I'm interested in having you come list or at least see my house to possibly list it.
Yeah.
After that, on that phone call, I'm assuming you do some sort of qualifier and questionnaire. Pre-qual. Gotcha.
Yeah, where are you going? You need to be there.
Okay. And then are you doing a pre-listing package, or you don't feel that that's something that was needed in your thing?
No.
Everyone does it different. That's why I ask.
Right. Yeah. No, just go right to, I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And would you be ready to sign? Would you be ready to go on the market? Do you need to do some work to the home? So I at least have a feel for, should I start scheduling photos? I'd rather be one and done. Okay, we're signed and we have to wait a couple of weeks, or sign. Yeah, they want to go on the market next Monday. Right. We're ready to go.
And then some agents, they get caught up in this. They're going, how can you show up to the house with the home already priced if you haven't seen the house? And so when you're doing your analysis, are you kind of going in going, This is what I think it's going to sell for. I then adjust on the fly if the client's
Yeah.
not in agreement. Like, talk me through that.
Yeah, yeah. So, I've been in so many homes, and so have many of the listeners. You have a pretty good feel. I mean, just go into your hot sheet today and look at what's active on the market. Oh, that's a good price, or, well, that's overpriced. I can do that, 99 out of 100 times, be within five to $10,000. So I'll arrive knowing here's a range, here's the average, the median, a high and a low. So I can finagle it if I need to and move on the fly. If I show up and, oh crap, they finished the room above the garage that I didn't know about, and my fault for not asking that question, but it wasn't on the public record. Um, so I have that, and maybe was fortunate enough that I bring what I call my active, pending, and sold sheet. So I always explain, well, my CMA is based on what has happened. Now we have to look to what's going on today and what might happen in the future based on what's your competition. So if I get a feel for that, but then, like I said earlier, I'm walking around and, hey, Brendan, you've got a beautiful home. It looks like you've done a lot of work. How closely do you follow the market? They hesitate a little bit. I know they probably have no idea. Well, what do you owe? If you had to guess, what do you think your home is worth in today's market? And just get a feel. Again, if they know right away, or, well, I'd love to get this number, we might have an issue. But I can ask those questions carefully and, structure them during the walkthrough, that I get that information. And so then when I sit down, keep in mind, I haven't told you what my CMA says. I might not even pull that out.
Sure.
Oh, well, that's great. So you need to get to Florida within the next 30 to 60 days. So it sounds like you're motivated, right? So I lead them into that assumption that they're, assumptive closing. Okay, great. Yep. What would that do for you? Get me closer to family. Okay. Now you'd mentioned 450,000. It might be a little high. I want, I list a lot of homes, but I want to sell them, not put them on the market. I want to be in the market, not just on it. And so they say, oh, that's smart. And here's the price. And then I draw, if I get any pushback, I always draw a triangle, because people are visual, and all of my charts and stuff, they have the lines and they are colors. But I draw a triangle because it's the simplest form to show people, if the base of the triangle is the number of buyers and the price. And as we move up, we go up, we lose buyers as we go up in price. So people and if people still kind of like, what do you, I've done $1 million is the top of the pyramid, 500,000's half, and then I gotcha. So we can't we're losing buyers, and we might not even get showings at all.
I love it,
So
Jeff.
that also leads to the price reductions.
We've been using we love so many agents we know that we teach and help, we call it the pricing pyramid, right? Yeah, it's like, for every 10% or 5% we're over market value, we're losing 15% of the buyer segment. So we don't want to be here. We don't want to be here, right? But I've never thought to draw it. That's even more. And I love when you say things like that, because, as you know too, it makes it more authentic, right? Like when you're sitting there and they're going, "Ooh, he's a master because he's drawing a triangle." Yeah, and it all matters, right? It all matters.
And so, a little trick I also learned was, again, it's almost like having the paperwork pre-filled out, and some of it is that current pending sold. So when I arrive with a chart, they think you've spent hours putting that together.
Right.
It took me 25 seconds.
Sure.
But I will still mark on it or highlight, because, again, if I can get you to visually see, oh my God, that house at 123 Main Street was that. Oh, I didn't even realize, the public doesn't know what they don't know. So we have to kind of work with their perception and their truth to show them the truth. And then, right, so I can bracket where I want you to be. Oh, Brendan, right, it looks like after, and we have some rural towns where, hey, after 400, 500,000, you get to a spot where it's just unaffordable. And way out west of Portland is not, as sought after. There's a little bit of a sprawl, but then you start to get, and I'm sure every city and suburban rural area has that, where then you start to, and so people realize, oh wow, so if I price it at 500,000, only 3 homes sold over that last year. So that's why we need to be at 479, and that's going to cause your home to sell.
And I love that, Jeff. And with, obviously, and I'm not sure how it is in Scarborough or Portland, but have you seen days on market increasing there in your area as well? slightly?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I
Right.
mean, that's definitely everywhere. And,
Yeah.
the
So
houses are well priced to move quick.
yeah, and so now we have this challenge, it seems, and I get a lot of questions from our audience all the time going, well, I want to take the listing and they want last year's pricing. And then if I tell them this year's pricing and someone else is telling them that they can get the number from last year, am I going to
Yeah.
lose that listing? And so how are you managing that difficult balance of going, they want 500, it's 450, and are you looking at it going, I try to, yeah, how do you handle that?
It's been mixed. It all depends on the seller and what I get for that body language they're giving. Because I definitely have some folks who have said, "Well, no, I absolutely want 500, and I'm not selling any less." Well, okay, then we'll list for 500. I just want to warn you: if we don't get any showings, we don't get offers after 10 to 14 showings, we need to be here. So I already led them in that direction. Yet at the same time, I would rather have a sign and I'd rather have a listing because you don't know, someone's motivation could change. And I've also been wrong enough times where I didn't take a listing, someone else listed it, and it did sell for that number that I said there was no way it could sell for that.
I
So
love that,
we've
right? It's a business
yeah,
decision, right?
right,
And you just said it best. You're getting another listing, more marketing, possible buyer referrals. And then the
yep,
key words you said in there, Jeff, that I want to make sure everyone takes away is the motivation could change, right? Everyone starts with, hey, I'm at this. And then we've seen it 1,000 times, right? The pain goes to a certain barrier where they're going, so in
yeah,
structuring that then during your weekly kind of check down, um, when you're carrying, whatever amount of listing inventory you're carrying, is there anything that you're doing? And we were talking earlier offline about, your calls and how you check in. So I've been on the market 2 weeks. My home isn't selling. Is there a phone call that I'm receiving? Are you giving them
yes,
data along the way to make me realize that I'm not in realityville, I'm still in fantasy land? How does that
yeah.
look?
Yeah, so you get a phone call, and we intend to do it once a week, depending on what's the market's a little different for some homes versus others. So a weekly call, I could call you and have no information. Some people still want that call, and I get that up front. How would you like to be contacted? What kind of news? Others, hey, just call me with an offer. So yeah, Brendan. Good news, bad news. Good news is you're still getting showings. Bad news is we don't have an offer. The market's telling us that our marketing is working. You're getting activity, you're getting showings. People are coming, but they're not making an offer. As such, your home may be causing others to sell. And we don't want that. You don't want that. So I would suggest, and I go right to the point, you can go 10,000 or 20,000. Here's the number. And that's going to drive more activity to get you an offer, not just another showing.
Right. I love
And,
it.
and I've been great. Yeah. My business partner listens to those calls and how do you do that? It's just one and done. It's not, well, I got to think about it. It's almost always, yep, no, you said it best. Send over the paperwork. Let's do it right now.
Right. And I think that the overall market hasn't seen this in a long time. And so we're starting to carry a lot more inventory than we did. And I think agents get freaked out by that. I'm watching a lot of agents right now, Jeff, they're going through this emotional roller coaster of
Yeah.
feeling bad, like the guilt of
Sure.
the home not selling. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard. I keep telling people, detach yourself from the outcome. If the seller
Yeah.
doesn't want to come to the reality of where pricing is, it's not your fault. But then they
Right.
start throwing Hail Marys, Jeff, and they're like, I'm going to do an
Yeah.
extra broker's open and I'm going to do a Thursday afternoon open house. They break away from their strategy. And what I think you've done a great job of, and I wanted to hint on this for a second, talking about this, is you really care about your family, your hobbies, your money, and what I mean by money, meaning that maximizing your best time. So you structure this where you work 9 to 5, sometimes 9 to 4, Monday
Yeah.
through Friday. So
Correct.
so talk to me about how you got to that and sold 2,800 homes doing that, and we'll talk about the 90 listings in 72 days here in a moment. What was it always that way, or did you get to the point where you're like, if I'm going to keep doing this, I'm not going to kill myself, even though, because sometimes we get addicted to the money, right? We're
Yeah.
like, We're like,
Right.
listing appointment, 7 o'clock on a Saturday night. Ooh, kids want this. 10 grand.
Yeah.
Kids, you can wait, right? Was it kind of an evolution, or is it always that way?
No, it's definitely an evolution because I'm competitive and I always want to win and I want to get that trophy and I want to be, first and, this and that. And prove my worth, whatever that meant, by saying, "Oh, I was successful because I, got this trophy or I got on stage." And then I know we sometimes all get caught up in that. At the end of the day, then I looked back and saw and heard friends, family. I've got a nine and a 12-year-old, and a wife that also has a business that she just started 3 years ago. And they said, "You're always on your phone. Can you put your phone down? What do we just get so attached to that, knowing that next call, that next text, that next Facebook message could be a referral or, $20,000. I mean, some of these, right, commission checks are pretty sizable. And so I just said, well, I could still do this in the time frame that I allot to it. And right, work fills the time allotted. And we hear so many different, quotes and cliches. It's true. I live life, and real estate falls into those time frames that I have free, that I've scheduled for them. So, whether you set an appointment with yourself to make sure you go to the gym or do certain tasks with your family, plan date nights. I drop off my kids at school. I've never missed a school event or a practice or a game, and still managed to sell, over 100, 200 homes most years.
Yeah. And so, Jeff, in doing that, then obviously maximizing the time. So if and I'm sure there's always exceptions, but if seller is going, hey, yeah, we need you to meet with us Saturday at 3 o'clock. Do you either say, unfortunately, I'm not available at that time. I'm happy to meet with you Monday at 2? Like, is that how it happens? Like, what happens?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Super rare occasions where someone says, "Well, I can only be in town on Saturday." I said, "Well, right, I already have appointments set. Is it possible that we could either meet, 8 o'clock in the morning, so I can be done before the family gets going and wakes up, or right, what do you have for Friday? What do you have for Monday?" I like to protect my nights and weekends, and I think more often than not, people have been really receptive. Because I could
Good.
tell you countless times, even in the last 2 weeks, where someone said, "Hey, I want to meet at this time." It's like, "Oh, I'd love to. I've already committed to my son's track practice, and I've gone to every single one of them, and I don't want to disrupt the season or his mindset or screw up something because Dad's not there." So I really take it to the heart there. And then people say, "Hey, you're right." And countless times, if you look back, if the realtors that are listening to this are struggling with that, how many times has a client or a prospect told you, something came up, I'm sorry?
Sure.
But
Well,
we're always, again, tied to that outcome of what would I get in commission if, like, there's always going to be another one that will replace it. And for something that I may have felt I missed, I bet 3 or 4 other deals or people that entered my life have, it's taken me to another level by saying no to somebody else.
yeah, and when you stop chasing, right, you align yourself as a professional. Your dentist isn't gonna meet with you Saturday at noon. And your
Right.
knee doctor is certainly not
Yeah.
going to. So yeah, I love that, and I love just, prioritizing what's first. And then, as you said, I think it hyper focuses you on the time that you do have allotted to make sure that you're maximizing it at the highest level. So
That's
that's
right.
very, very, very cool. And I know some
Mhm.
people hear that and they go, well, that's because of this and that's because of that. And as I said, everything evolves. Me and Jeff both, I'm sure, had early on walked out of a restaurant during a dinner to take a lead call because it just
Yeah.
came in, and so we're not sitting here. I don't think either of us are either sitting here going, if you've done 3 deals this year, then you maybe have a different situation, but there's still a
Mhm.
lot of agents that are doing 25, 50, 70, 100 deals a year, and the
Yeah.
burnout. And then what I watch all the time, Jeff, is they go really, really, really hard and then break down,
Yeah.
and then they go, I'm gonna take 3 months off, and I'm like, what
Right.
happened? So yeah, I
Yeah.
I get that. So let's, just because of use of time, let's jump into this 90 listings. So the goal was 90 listings in 90 days, and
Right.
you've done it several times. So can you talk to me about where that concept came from? then how you executed on it, and what you learned from it, and what you realized was possible. So 90
Yeah.
listings, 90 days. You ended up doing it in 72 days. How
Right.
did it all happen?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was back, geez, it was several years ago. Craig Rager, I think, and then Maps Coaching. So my coach at the time, Mike Fleming, had said, well, how many listings did you take last month? I said, well, 12. Well, how many did the market take? He said, geez, pit my stomach, 300. He said, well, great. So there's 288 available. Why didn't you take any of those? Even if you took 10%, you would have got 28 more. That would have been 40 listings. What happened? I said, well, I just don't think I have the time. He's like, no, you have the time. You just don't have, um, whether it's the mindset or the limiting belief. And so then I just said, well, the heck with that. I'm going to prove that wrong. And so I really appreciated that challenge. So I sat down the team and said, listings, listings, listings. It just drives everything else that we could possibly do. It'll get the phone to ring. It'll get you to get buyers, et cetera. So we sat down and said, well, where do listings come from? Where are our current listings come from? And then how do we make sure that the system we just hammer it? And my assistant made sure to keep me in appointment setting and going on appointments and nothing else.
And when you say appointment setting, give me during that 72 or 90-day period, give me a day in the life of how what that looks like.
Yeah, 9 to 11, calling back every lead, call in, calling my database, wishing people happy birthday, the kind of the boring stuff that I always did, but we made sure that that never got touched. An appointment was never during that time. They were always 12, 1, 2, 3. And my assistant at the time blocked that all off. So then if she got a call while I was on the phone, she just set the appointment and said, well, right, 2 o'clock, you got an appointment. Paperwork was already prepared. I just had to look at a CMA real quick and pack it up and go, come back and sign. And I never touched it again until it was on the market and we had to negotiate a contract.
And
So it
when
was
you
go.
and when you said leads in there, Jeff, were there when you like is there where are inbound leads coming from? Right? Because you along the way do radio advertising. So
Right.
is that the majority of where you get your listing leads from, or how does that work?
Yeah. So sphere of influence, radio, and referral. A lot of agent referral from going to the regional and national events. Um, you know,
Yeah.
Keller Williams
Yeah,
related. So I was
absolutely.
going to family reunion and
Right.
different training sessions and getting tons of leads that way.
So what made you decide on radio? Was this you saw someone else doing it and having success? And if I was on your Instagram and I saw I think it was a fabricated billboard. I don't know if it was a real billboard sign, but it was something to the lines of like your mother-in-law doesn't like your house or something like that.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I think people get nervous. I did radio for years. I did television, for years, and so what was the decision to go in on radio? And then if you could explain to some of those listeners, just even a beginner's guide to what the cost was and what the messaging was. I mean, do you go on radio
Yeah.
and go, hey, if you're looking to list with Jeff, call today? Like, how does it play out?
Yeah. So I had heard, other agents in various markets and other top agents had been doing this. So I did connect with a marketing agency that does handle all of that. So I just deliver the stories. I just keep doing what I do, and they do the copy. I write what I believe, and then they massage it to be that direct. Brendan had to sell his home in Portland in order to move to Florida, where he'd already found a home but didn't want to carry two mortgages. So, you tell that story, but people listen for a name, a city, and a problem
Yeah,
that you
and
can
the
solve.
proof, that
Right.
exactly there it is, and the
And,
proof
and then
that
we
you
go
can
right
solve
into
it.
that testimonial that says, right, he sold it for 20,000 over asking in 6 days due to his strong database. Call the Mateja group today. You won't be disappointed, and your success story will be next. And so they have all of that copy, and we just 3 to 4 stories a month. They spin it. And then there's live reads, there's recorded reads from the personalities. So how I got involved there was that we do big media buys, and it's not. I'm only now probably $5,400 a month, and that's across 6 stations. Keep in mind.
What did you
Um,
what did you start with, Jeff? Was it around that similar amount? Do you remember?
No, probably 3,000 or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Jeff, I'm just going to slow us down here because you're
Yep.
using a lot of insider verbiage,
Oh
which
yeah.
is great.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
no, it's perfect. When you're talking about like 6 channels, the personalities. So
Right.
obviously, if you want to explain it a little bit, like when you
Yeah.
go into radio, there's someone that manages the ad copy. So I always put this in a comparison, and I just want to make sure people are listening. Sometimes people hear $3,000 a month and they go, "Wow, that sounds like a ton of money." Well, let's break that down and go for $36,000 a year. If
Right.
you're getting, let's say, even just simple numbers, 25 listings from it. I mean, I'm sure it's more than that, but
Oh
even if it's 25 listings and you're making, let's do simple numbers, 10,000 per listing. And I know you're making more than that in your area because of the average price
yeah.
points. You're spending 36 to make 250, right? And so, we've had other guests on also that they, instead of radio, they decided to go direct mail, right? And so their $3,000 a month is going to newsletters and mailers
Sure.
and doing all of this. So I just wanted to slow that down for a second because some people hear that and they go, "Holy
Right.
mackerel, that sounds
Yeah.
like a fortune." And then the
Yeah.
second piece is you're renting the personalities, right? You're not renting the personalities, but there's kind of like a contract
There's
with
a
like
talent fee.
talent fee.
It's,
There
it's
you go.
they refer to it as a talent fee on the radio. So you're paying, 150 to $200 per month for the top guy and or gal. In my area, we have the top morning show, and then a gentleman called the Captain that's been on the radio for over 35 years. Where that just speaks volumes is the local folks who are listening to the radio day after day during drive time, right? So I'm really only paying for ads from 7 to 9 and 4 to 6, 6:30 to capture when most ears are listening.
Right.
And so that listenership is wild. And then to think that then there's people that are streaming and have been listening for years. So, someone who's, 3 decades plus on the radio, that listenership, they think the world of that person, that they walk on water. So I'll go into an appointment and they're the captain. I've been listening to the Captain for 30 years. If the Captain said you're the best, I believe, and so they're just, where do I sign?
That's it. That's it. I mean, you've got in the world of influencers, right? This is kind of one of the OG influencer plays, and it's
Right.
so, as you just said, they're so powerful. They're going, if the personality says Jeff is great. Sometimes people hear radio ads and they go like those things that chime on, and they're like, "No money down, buy a car. It's 6455792," and it's like.
Yeah.
I try to explain to people. I go, no, there is some of that. There's not a question that there is some of that, but there is this when I trust that person, like you just said, then I trust if they trust them, and I've listened
Yeah.
to them forever, then I've got to trust Jeff. And then Jeff, when you were making that decision, like when I did a lot of radio, we were also looking at the analytics and going, okay, and people will laugh at this. Older people listen to talk radio, right? And
Yeah.
then, because there's like stations where I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to be on that station. My friends will probably hear me. And I was like,
Right.
talk radio, you build a relationship with that, like you said, the morning show, the DJ,
Yeah.
or
Right.
whatever, political views that you have. But I go, I don't
Yeah.
want 20-year-olds business, right? They ain't got no money. They probably don't own a
Right.
house. So I'm not going to
Yeah.
be on, 99.3 the rock, alternative
Yeah.
rock channel. I'm not saying I wouldn't be, but it's going like, did you go through that process and did they help you understand that?
Yeah, the marketing agency did, and then obviously I carefully listen and watch, and move around stations too to understand. And I've gone to lunch with all of my personalities to just get to know them, so then they get to know me, and then it's genuine when they're delivering. But yes, that salesperson at the radio will surely point to, here's our demographic, here's our listenership, and then try to get you into other sponsorships. But I just stick to, let's just do the reads, and it's been phenomenal. The ROI is in the 8 to 10x.
Woo.
Yeah.
That is, so listen to that, everyone. 8 to 10x. So that means he's spending $1, he's getting an 8 to 10 times return on that $1 with radio. Now, if you're in Scarborough and Portland, do not do radio, but if you're everywhere else, right? But right, and the nice thing though is once you have these contracts, you kind of become exclusive. Like the Captain can't really, they wouldn't have the Captain go,
Right.
Jeff one commercial, Susie the next commercial, right? That's the reason
No.
you pay the talent fee, because otherwise it doesn't work.
Right.
And some people, I think,
Yeah.
are nervous about that. They're like, well, why can't I just go get the Captain too? And it's like, Well,
Right.
you've got an exclusive with the captain for a certain amount at a certain time, and they can't go do that.
Right, right. Yeah, we've seen a couple agents that have run ads with another, like a co-host, and my marketing agency says, right, it just doesn't have the impact. Blake, he's the top, morning show.
Right.
People trust him. Listen, Kelly, the co-host, right, reads another ad. It just doesn't have as much power. I'm
Yep.
sure she still converts, but
And
I've got.
then they usually get a lesser talent fee too, right? They're kind of like ranked of yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so that's really cool. So I think people in understanding this of just making sure that it's going okay. So 90 listings in 72 days. We have leads coming in because we have a lead funnel from radio that's producing activity. But a lot of times, not all those people are ready that second, right? They're not ready. They're not. People aren't calling from the radio and they're going, "Come list my house today." They're like, "We're thinking about it in 3 to 4 months."
Yeah.
So was
Right.
there a target of like contact goal per day, or was it just time? Like I'm going into the isolation chamber for 2 hours and I'm gonna hit as many people as I can. What was the mindset in that
Yeah.
2 hour window?
It was time, and I knew that I could physically go on with drive and paperwork time 3 to 4 appointments a day max. And again, Monday through Friday. I wasn't going on Saturday and Sunday appointments and trying to maximize the 9 to 5 time, which was really 11 to 5 because I needed to lead generate. So I really had a 12 o'clock, 1, 2, 3, 4 open. And then I had to leave drive time. So I was getting about 3 appointments. So we would look at possibly going on 15 a week.
I know what it feels like to want more listings, but not know where to find them, how to list them, and how to get them sold in the first weekend. That's why today's video is powered by listingbeast.com, the proven certification program that's helping agents like you get more listings, make more per client, and receive endless referrals from raving fans. So if you're serious about earning $100K every single month from listings, head to listingbeast.com and book a call with my team right now. All right, let's dive back in.
If I needed, I could send somebody. If I couldn't go, we were going in opposite directions, would cut me out of being able to go on my next one. I would look and say, I've got a real likelihood of signing these ones. Can so-and-so go on this one? And then just remember, you're an extension of me. We give the same presentation, more so that the client has the same experience, but also so that on the backside, our director of operations, administrative side, doesn't have to guess, oh, did you tell them that? We can't have two different stories. So it's framed to, we keep, you go to Starbucks and you get the same cup of coffee in Seattle as you do in Scarborough.
Right.
That's how I explained it to my team. So if we can deliver the same level of service and be exceptional, they're not worried that Jeff didn't come to their house. And so then that helped people understand, John could take 20 listings, 30 listings. And so when we got done, it was, oh, wow, Jeff did 90. The rest of the team could pick some. And then another thing that we capitalized on was our buyer agents. When I had several, 9 full-time, they were calling leads and talking about, well, do you need to sell a home in order to buy? Well, we missed the whole avenue where our team was skipping over that someone had a house to list first. So we were getting, we didn't get a ton, but we got a handful of listings and appointments from the guy or gal that said, well, yeah, you know what? I will need to sell in order to buy. Do you do that? Well, of course we do. And so then they set a listing appointment and I may go on it with them so then they could take it from me later.
Smart. And so you, at this point in your career, and I'm assuming unless it's very, a family or a friend, are you working with buyers at this stage or?
No, I have, I think I've closed one this year and I have one that I'm working with. And it's really, either they're a very close friend or they said we wouldn't work with the team at all. Like, well, I don't want to lose the listing if I, so I'll work with them on the buy side. And, with the price points also going up, you've got someone that sells, $560,000, $70,000 home to buy 780, 800. That's a pretty good day or two.
Right.
And it just keeps that consistency.
Right.
That they're not being handed off and they're happy and they can direct all their questions to one.
If you know that you're heading to a buy sell, Jeff, do you bring a buyer agent with you or do you go on the listing appointment and say, hey, look, my goal is to get you the listing sold. John or Susie is going to work with you on the buy side. have you
Yeah.
tried different things over time? Because I get a lot of questions about this. They're like, how do I stop working with buyers? How do I
Right.
get away from that? And I've heard, I've done it different. Everyone's done it different.
I've done both, even recently, where I've brought the buyer agent with me to say, all right, well, they want to get a look at your house because they'll be doing the open house and they're going to work with you on the buy side. And I want you to feel comfortable with them so that you don't just get handed off or feel like that because I just disappear after your house sells. So then, oh, that's convenient and nice of you. But it's pretty easy to say, hey, at the end of the day, Alex and Mackenzie, Alex, my buyer agent, sees 300 homes, every couple of weeks, versus I go in and see 10 to 15 every couple of weeks. Who would
Right.
you prefer, right? Yeah,
That's that nugget right there. I never even thought about that, right? Like this is what she does, and so she has a better understanding of the buyer market. My goal is to get your house sold, but that was a great line that
yeah,
I've never even thought of, to be
right.
honest with you. Um, and then in doing that, obviously this is why you're able to work 9 to 5, generally 5 days a week, right? That obviously changes that because
Absolutely. Right.
buyers usually want to see houses on the weekend, and that's their time, so you can't necessarily do that. So yeah, I just hope everyone understands that it's all in shaping it, and it doesn't happen overnight, and there's definitely these progression pieces. The one last question before we get into our beast mode round here that I want to ask you, Jeff, was just to be really clear on the radio spend. I just want to be really clear: are all ads listing related, or are you doing, hey, we help first time home buyers buy their first house, call our team today?
All listing oriented, and their testimonials of results, they still lead to buyers. So you have to keep that in mind. If
Sure.
you go to attract buyers, which actually that competing ad that I told you about that is on the station is more buyer focused, which maybe that's why they allow it.
Oh,
If you get down that road, you'll be chasing and you'll get people that just maybe had a bad experience and can't afford, and it gets weird. So we're also trying to attract that which we are and the experience, right? So when we're asking for referrals, so essentially my radio ads are asking for referrals in an indirect way. Brendan needs to sell a home in order to get to Florida. So people are listening. I don't know Brendan, but I do know someone that just moved to Florida, or I got to move to Florida. It just
tells the
that
story, connects the
particular
dots.
activator gets, and then people think,
Yeah.
oh, you got to call, because I've had so many where that person didn't listen to the radio when I asked them, but like, no, my dad, he listens to the captain, and he told me to call you, and it's like, holy cow, it's just wild how indirectly you get connected to people
It's
who just
massive.
unbelievable.
That
Yeah,
is that is amazing. And so I just want to make sure that, yeah, I wanted to clear that point up. Jeff is not spending a dollar on advertising to attract buyers. They
right.
come anyway, but that's a big piece. I've listened to radio shows at times, and I've heard people on there going, it's like you're going to spend a lot of money to try to attract a first time home buyer who may or may not be able to get qualified, who's going to have to go show 14 houses or 15 or
Yeah,
25, or and then fail through inspection or buy a truck before closing day, all of that. And you're just and you're but sometimes agents in their mind, they're going, well, I'm really good with first time home buyers, so that's what I should spend my advertising on, right? And it's like,
right.
you
Well,
know
and then you mentioned also the demographic. So I can, we obviously can't violate fair housing. You can control that demographic in which who's going to hear it and respond and take action on that call to action. So
right.
again, those last few radio ads, 655, 560, 780, well worth, one of those
Well worth
closes it
it.
pays for the
Yeah.
radio for 3 to 4 months.
Exactly. I love it. Well, I could geek out on this forever with you, and we'll definitely, hopefully, be able to get you
Yeah,
back on in the future.
awesome.
But Jeff, let's move into our beast mode segment, because we like to always have some fun on the show too. So in beast mode, it's just an acronym, and the M in mode is for your most memorable listing appointment that you've been on. Have you encountered an interesting listing appointment? Tell me about it.
Oh, well, there's tons. The most recent, I would say, not by it's kind of by chance, but also some of the radio ads we've run. We did have one where a seller's father had passed away. There was a fire in the property, so I didn't know what I was going into. Obviously, the deceased had been removed, but they said, well, you need to wear a mask. And it's like, oh, are you sick? I wasn't sure and wanted to be sensitive to COVID. And they said, no, just there's an interesting smell. And so I get to the property and, this person has the mask over. So it's just really weird. And we both have masks. So, you're talking in this mask and, it's cold outside, but my mouth's like, everything on me is freezing, but I'm like, perspiring inside this mask. And then it smells like smoke and it smells like God knows what. And there's just stuff everywhere. And you can't see. So they handed me a flashlight. Like, did the lights not work? And they're like, remember, there was a fire here. Like, oh. So there's no power. There's no water. What am I encountering? And then we go into the basement. And the person had a mental illness where, beautiful home, hardwood floors. They just were like a pack rat. And this lady had delivered all kinds of Amazon packages that had never been opened, from microwaves to just supplies. And we go into the basement and there's a bed next to the heating system. And the fire the fire had taken place. And it didn't burn and do any structural damage, but the person had been sleeping in the basement, even though they had a beautiful 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath home upstairs. And just, that's one that just like almost shakes you. It's not memorable in a fun way.
No. That's what these are the things that we're in people's lives and sometimes after their lives, and the families are having to deal with it. And thank you for sharing that. Cause it's just,
well, and where I won the listing though, sorry to cut you off, I won the listing, as I said, right. Oddly enough, one of my past clients is I can't remember the name of the company, but does biohazard. Like crime scene cleanup.
Sure.
So, Miss Seller, daughter of the person, we can have this all taken care of. I can get somebody in here, clean up, paint, do whatever. So actually the house went on the market just the other day, and already have, 10 showings, and, it hasn't even been 24 hours. But it was just, we can coordinate this because we've done this before and manage the legality.
You can solve the problem. You can solve the problems, which is our job. I love that. Jeff, tell me one obstacle you've overcome in your listing career that would like to share.
So I think the biggest is just my personality. When I worked in corporate America, I was kind of that that nerd. I was an internal auditor. And so I just did number crunching and prepared reports for management. While I could give presentations and look at people and present okay, I'd get red in the face and just kind of be that, awkward. Just right in person, pretty awkward. So I had to overcome that where, you go in and these people are putting huge financial thing, in front of you and trust to say, sell my house, and to have them believe that I could do it when, maybe struggle to look someone in the eye. And so I'd overcome that and be able to look you directly in the eye and tell you this is what your home is worth. And I'm confident and excited to get it sold. And I just reminds me of yesterday, I went on one where the lady is a Reiki teacher and it was talking about energy. And so, mirror match. So it's like, and I won't give her name, but it's like, Miss, I can feel the energy here. And
let's meditate together. Let's meditate together.
I just, Will Van Wickle will tell you that. I'm just really good at mirror matching to say, well, Brendan, at the end of the day, it is about that energy. And I believe that by casting enough positive energy out into the market, I'm going to locate that buyer. And the lady almost fell over backwards being like, "Ooh, wow, talk about just," and it, the thing is I know
NLP'd the heck out of her. Yeah,
I know all these scripts,
yeah,
but it's all internalized. So everything just comes natural and flows off the tongue to just be,
Well, that's great for people to hear because, you would consider yourself an introvert, I would assume, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so people hear this sometimes and they're going, well, I'm not Ryan Searhart, right? I'm like, no one is. I go, how hard, that guy is, that's a different universe. And I love our industry because we have every type of personality style I've seen have massive success. It doesn't matter what you came from. It's not necessarily a talent. It's a hard work and work ethic and motivation. And you got to keep learning. And as you said, script practice and role plays, but we have this thing where we call them tigers, dolphins, and turtles. I was like, you can be a tiger personality. You can be a dolphin. You can be a turtle. the client out there, they care about them. And like you just
Yeah.
did with that Reiki or Reki, I don't even know what it's called,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, she's doing a sound bowl, you're going, I'm going to bring that energy to get you clients
Sure.
too. And it's because they care
Yeah.
about them. I love that.
Right.
Then with that, that'll probably lead to the next piece. What's delivering? The D in mode is D for deliver. What's one piece of advice you'd like to deliver to the
Yeah.
listing agents out there and the future listing beasts to become?
So I think it's twofold. The first is just be yourself and then be consistent. So whatever you choose is your path. Be adaptive to it, but be yourself. Don't try to, because it's really hard to fake and continue to fake, and you're going to lose that energy. If you can just be yourself, you're going to attract the people that want to be with you. And I've done pretty well at that. And then it's just consistency, doing it over and over and over again. And a lot of people would say I'm quite boring. Aren't we all in our own special way? But it's not boring going to the bank, and it's not boring doing
Ooh, it's
what I
not
can
boring
do.
going to the bank. Oh,
Right?
love
It's
that.
not boring doing the result of being able to go to the bank. Right? But got quite the lifestyle that I've been able to develop by handwriting birthday cards and shaking people's hands and meeting them out for a couple of coffees. But it's just right. Remember what got you there and keep doing it, and
I
don't
love it.
give that up.
That's huge advice. And to that point, was there times where you thought, "Hey, is radio really working? Should I cut it? Should I do it?" Right? Well, we all go through these things where we're like, "Ooh, should I jump to the next flashing light?" Right? Did you ever have those moments?
Oh yeah, I mean, it almost seems like it's quarterly, right? And then you're like, oh my god, where's the next deal coming from?
Right.
Because the market was slow,
Right.
January to March, especially here in Maine. The weather had been funky. It's actually rained even every Saturday for the last like 14 Saturdays. So some of these like second home markets where people aren't coming to visit as plentiful as they were,
Right.
you're like, Jesus, is this really worth it? So we would look at the P&L, and again, that's we talked about profit too. Being profitable and making sure that you keep as many of those dollars that you work so hard for. So I was looking at radio saying, okay, well, maybe we dial it back. We could always add to it. Or are we on the right stations? And so it
Right.
always second
You're always
guessed.
tweaking the engine. You're always
Right.
tinkering. It's not like you just are going, but you're never throwing the engine out, right? You're just
No,
going,
no.
yeah, you're optimizing. And
And we hear it time and time again. Coaches and Gary said, inspect what you expect. And so just do that with your money too. And
right,
not enough agents do that,
right.
and they get burnt. And then you all of a sudden look and I worked for how many months, and what do I have to show for it? Just
Yeah.
don't let that happen.
That's
Yeah.
huge. Consistency and be authentic. I love it. And then the last is the E. What are you excited for? What are you excited for the years to come or the rest of this year? What are you looking forward to, Jeff? And yeah, what are you excited about?
So I'm working back towards getting my database better working for me. Where I had the struggle was I got running too fast and built this big team and then shrunk it. And now I just want to be able to come and go as I please when I want. So it's really looking to retirement any day now. We set a date and then we backed off of that just because I'm kind of fearful of it. But I think my job should be to go out and find that person that can replace me, that person that does have that energy. Maybe I want someone that's even better than me. And so we've toyed with that idea. I could leave at any moment financially in that space. I like kind of joke with my coaches, what would I do to replace that time? I lose my mind. So right now I'm very selective in who I work with and choose. And so we're getting to that point where it's, I want to be, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to report to someone because I'm the boss, but I want to report in, but not be the person that directs everybody else what they need to do.
Yeah, you want to be the visionary. You don't want to be the director of operations or especially not
Yeah.
the director of sales, right?
Right.
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 Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And what I think and to look at you, I would assume you're not in your 60s or 70s. Is that a
No,
fair
no,
statement?
not even in my
Yeah.
50s. Yeah.
Yeah, not even in your
40.
50s. I didn't want to imply anything there, but like for everyone that's listening, it's like, because he's run the business the right way, because he's had standards, because he's been profit focused, and we'll bring him back to talk about profit, because I think there's so much that we didn't even get into about,
Right.
in their office running contests on profit, not just units and volume, which
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of, is going,
Right.
it's how much you make per deal, and then how much you keep is what's also critical, because everyone's caught up in this unit and volume game. So you can get a 6-inch glass statue
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
March that says that you sold more than Susie Joe. Who cares,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's like, but you also went through it. You did the same.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just so, because it's competitive. You're like, they
Right.
don't celebrate bank accounts, right? They don't celebrate
Yeah.
profits. It's
Well,
really hard to focus on that.
and it's tough because out to to society and the public, you don't say, well, yeah, your doctor doesn't say, well, I just did this surgery and I'm going to make $1 million this year. So it is tough, and we do
Yeah.
get kind of in that. But I mean, from sports to just livelihood to business, right? The competitive pieces, units, or how long you've been open, or did you win gold or silver? I get it. So it's tough to say, well, let's see your 1099.
Exactly. And like you said, and you went from big team, cut the team down. You were doing
Yeah.
400 units, went back down to, not down, but got smart and said, I can probably make more doing 200 than dealing with 400, even though 400 sounds cool. And so
Right.
we'll
Yeah.
definitely come back to that, because I mean,
Yeah.
it's just absolutely fascinating, because I think that's the story that people don't really understand is, if you really look at it, you can make a really good living in this business selling 24 homes. And that's even if you're in
Yeah.
Mississippi. No offense to Mississippi, or I'm trying to think of,
Right. Right.
the lower price point
Lower
places.
price point. Yeah.
It's just, what are you spending your time on? And what we heard from Jeff today is he's got a very sophisticated listing lead funnel. He focuses on center of influence, referrals, and radio. He's not doing radio center of influence, expireds for sell by owners, this letter, geo farming, right? Right. You've made a decision that going, these are my 3 buckets that I'm going to live
Yeah.
in. And the better I execute them, more money I make.
Yeah. Pick something and master it versus be average at 20 different things.
I love it. I love it. If today's video helped you level up your listing game, hit that subscribe button right now. You'll get instant access to weekly strategies that'll get you more listings, help you make more per client, and receive endless referrals from raving fans. And if you're dead serious about making $100K every month from listings, head straight to listingbeast.com to book a call with my team. Our proven listing certification program can take your business from good to unstoppable. I'm Brendan Bartic, and I'll see you in the next one.